A cop, a soldier, a firefighter, a widow, a set of grandparents. 5 lives all linked by the terrorist attacks of 15 years ago. An event we now know simply as September 11th. Joe and Linda Zadroga were grandparents planning for their retirement. But when their son James, a New York City police officer who spent almost 500 hours at Ground Zero searching for bodies, died of respiratory ailments from breathing too much toxic dust, and James's wife also died too of a heart attack, the grandparents became parents to the baby left behind.
The 15th anniversary is just the same as all other anniversaries. It brings us back to the days of him being sick, and then our efforts after that to try and get health benefits and everything for the other first responders. We spent 10 years trying to get bills passed so that they could be taken care of, because no one took care of James when he was sick.
His baby was 2 years old at the time, and when he died she was 4 years old, and now she doesn't even want to hear about him or talk about him because she lost both her mother and father. And it's very hurtful for her. If you look in her eyes, you could tell. Like she said to him a couple of weeks ago, my dad will never see me graduate. My dad will never walk me down the aisle. It just kills you.
As with all history, you should learn from what happened in previous years and understand that it could happen again today. Unfortunately, our schools don't teach history as it should be taught. And unfortunately, these young people a lot of them don't even know what 9/11 is today because they didn't live through it.
Will Jimeno was a 32-year-old rookie Port Authority police officer on the job only 8 months. On the morning of September 11th, he volunteered to accompany rescue teams into the World Trade Center. Then the buildings collapsed. He was trapped in the rubble, his legs crushed, and wondering if he would ever see his 4-year-old daughter and wife, who was 7 months pregnant.
9/11 had a great impact on me. Unfortunately, it put a lot of undue stress on my family, and the recovery period was very long. So dealing with not only physical but mental injuries was painstaking for my family. But at the same time, it taught me a lot of good things about overcoming challenges, getting to be happy again. But overall, I look at the positive things of 9/11 and all the good that came out of that day and how people helped each other. And people keep asking me about the 15th anniversary. Personally, 9/11 is every day for me, an anniversary every single day, because I think of Dominic Pizzulo, Antonio Rodriguez, Christopher Amoroso, Dave LaMagna, Warren Stewart, and the rest of the Port Authority officers we lost, and all those fellow Americans and human beings we lost on that day. So every day is special for me, and I just try to live my life in a positive way where I can honor all those that lost their lives. On 9/11, they attacked our freedoms, and in the future, and our future generations have to understand how precious our freedoms are and how we must protect them. Leave the country, go to third world nations, look at how they live and see what a gift you have here. And while we never forget what happened in our history, we'll be much stronger and a better place. And like I tell the youth, you are our future. Learn the lessons from the past so you can make us a stronger country and a better world.
Mike Ciampo was a Jersey guy who became a decorated New York City firefighter and a mentor to other firefighters, including a young man from his New Jersey hometown named Dana Hannon. On the morning of 9/11, Ciampo rushed to Ground Zero only to find that Dana had been killed with other firefighters. All these years later, Ciampo still grieves over the loss of his friend.
Personally, I had a very large impact with losing so many brother firefighters and watching my kids lose Dana Hannon, who used to come to our house all the time. They were young little children playing. He'd play with them, sit on their laps. So had a very big impact on my family. Not only that, my father was retired from the FDNY also, and he knew multiple people that were lost, murdered, whatever you want to say for that date. So it's had a very severe impact on my whole family because we've been 5 generations of volunteer, and my father and I have worked in the FDNY for so many years and known so many brothers that we lost. There's still pain to this day. Personally, the biggest thing it means to me is I have to move forward and keep the memory of all the guys I worked with. Every time I go to work, I get on the apparatus with that FDNY patch and symbol, and I do it in their honor. You know, unfortunately, something could happen, may happen again. We just have to be prepared as emergency responders. Looking in the future, I just hope that people still remember. I just hope through the generations that they see that everyday human beings, United States citizens, other citizens were murdered on American soil, and they just go to this site and they visit it, and they really know what happened. You know, we were in a time of need, and we all became one country, and if anything, I'd like to tell all the young kids is, you know, we have to get over all this. We're just America. Let's act like Americans, respect each other, and live together in harmony and peace.
Kristen Breitweiser was a young mom with a 2-year-old daughter when her husband Ronald, a rising star in New York's financial world, was killed in the collapse of the Twin Towers. She turned her grief into action as one of the so-called Jersey girls who pushed and cajoled politicians in Washington to investigate the attacks and finally formed the 9/11 Commission. Today, Kristen is still campaigning for more information about those attacks.
Obviously, for me, the most lasting impact is the fact that I no longer have a husband and my daughter no longer has a dad. We fought so hard for so long to make sure that lessons could be learned from the attacks so that no other family would ever have to walk in our shoes and feel the sort of pain and devastation that we did on the morning of September 11th. I would have hoped that more lessons would have been learned. I would have hoped that more people would have been held accountable. I would have hoped we would have been able to show the world that we are a nation of laws and that terrorists can't come into our country and kill 3,000 people and, for all intents and purposes, get away with it. More than anything, I just hope going forward, the U.S. government will become more cooperative, because I do believe that if people are held accountable, future attacks will be diminished and lives will be saved. And I think the younger generation needs to know that they need to play an active role in our government. They need to partake in democracy, and that takes a lot of hard work. When you do effectively make decisions and carry out action that enables Washington to hear your voice, you can make a difference.
James Egan was just out of college and a newly commissioned U.S. Army lieutenant at Fort Benning, Georgia on the morning of the 9/11 attacks. He went on to serve 2 combat tours in Iraq and still wears a bracelet with the names of comrades who were killed there. All these years later, with no apparent end to the unrest in Iraq, Egan reluctantly wonders what he accomplished.
I think that the most lasting impact of the attacks of 9/11 was, just simply that the world is not always a great place, and that not everyone's good, and that we're not safe. There are people out there that don't like us, and we have to be ready for that and prepared for that. And I think that was a wake-up call for us. It was a gut check as a nation. 9/11 changed everything for me moving forward for my military career. So that obviously affected me, but it also affected my family, because they had to deal with it and, support me when I was gone and all that. The message to the next generation that didn't live through this, I think, is it's never forget. A lot of us that remember what it was like before, and that's probably to some extent the way they feel now. It doesn't resonate maybe as deeply for them because they didn't live through it, or it was when they were young. And I think it's important for us to make sure that they remember not just the lives that were lost, but certainly the sacrifices that were made by the responders, and also how much it brought our country together. This is a great nation, and that kind of catastrophe really brought us together, and I would love to not have to have that catastrophe again, but I'd love to see us come together again as a nation.